your story? What's your story? What's your story? What's your story?
Brad, what is your story?
What's your story? What's your story?
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to
How
What's
are
Your
you?
Story?
What's your story?
This is technically our second episode, but it's really the first because we have an intro episode, which depending on how you count, could be counted as one or could just be an intro all by itself.
Exactly. We'll see if the intro thing ever sees the light of
Oh
day.
yeah,
But
Brad's
this
got
could-
it. He's got people who make those decisions.
I don't even know. I don't know what's going on anymore, but I can't
He's
make
just
decisions anymore
going with it.
without people. But
And if you guys aren't familiar with What's Your Story, I am Chrissy.
and I'm Brad.
And we have a guest every show, and we get into what their story is. And it can be all kinds of stories.
And it's a lot about like what your story is, Chrissy, what my story is.
Right.
But it's what everyone's story is all wrapped up. Because I think if you can, we're trying to do a podcast that's
A car,
very-
guys.
That's a car driving by my garage.
We're in a garage.
We're trying to do a podcast that's really sort of like vulnerable and,
Yeah.
and honest and truthful, and we just really get into it here, and we just want to bring you in on this little journey that we're going on to
Absolutely.
interview people with interesting stories, and everybody has an interesting story. And Chrissy has a very interesting story. She's does a bunch of different things, an actress, and has a podcast that's now become a talk show called Inside the Noise. Which is you should totally check that out. I'm actually going to be on the show, right?
Yes, Brad's going to be a guest, guys, and he's going to play live. It's going to be amazing.
Yes, thank you for having me on the show.
And Brad's got a lot of a story. Musician over there, making it happen. Businessman,
Yeah. I mean, trying to do it, trying to make some music.
And later on in the show, guys, we're going to have Justin Levinson on with us.
Yes.
He is a musician as well, and we get to get into his story, too.
Great musician, singer-songwriter, a buddy of mine, Justin Levinson, will be our guest today on the show, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, and if you guys want to follow us on Twitter, our Twitter handle is We Have the Story. So if you think you have a great story that you'd like to come on and share with us and you live in the LA area, tweet us. We actually would have you on. We're not fibbing. We would.
We would. We're not just trying to find actors and musicians, which of course is probably going to be a big bulk of it. But hey, what can we do? But we want to hear from you. We want to talk to all different types of people on the show.
Yeah.
So I mean, you and I had this interesting conversation. I mean, I feel like when I start talking to Chrissy, and this is where this whole idea to come across with this podcast was, like, I just run into you, and my mind starts we just start talking about all this crazy stuff, and then we're always like,
shit.
dude, this would be the craziest stuff to talk about on a podcast right now. Like, how is this not being taped?
Right.
Like, so we fell into this groove, and we go to the same gym.
We do,
and we just started talking about kids one day, and
we
how
did.
we don't
want to have any kids,
and we just we dealing with the guilt of maybe not wanting to have kids.
I don't have guilt about that at all.
She's got no guilt. I have a little bit of it. I mean, at least look, whatever. I don't get too dark.
Go ahead, get as dark as you want.
Right out of the gates. But
We're honest.
I mean, at least I signed up. I signed up for it. You know what I'm saying? I went down that road, but it wasn't in the cards, unfortunately. But
right.
But in retrospect, looking back, I mean, it's I don't know.
Well, I feel like I signed up for that road too, because here's a little info about me. I was in a long-term relationship, a very, 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 like, the amount of years you think in your head, probably double that long-term relationship. And
sounds like a prison sentence.
And the guy I was with, he had a daughter, and his nephews lived with us. So I raised kids for a lot of years, and I'm not telling you how many years those are, because then you'll be like, what? She's actually that old? So I'm not even going to tell you, but I'm just letting you know, for years and years. And I'm still involved in all their lives. I would never not be involved in all their lives, even though I'm not with the guy anymore. Yeah. But I know what it is to raise kids, and I don't want to give birth to a human and do that all over again. I'm sorry, but I don't.
Wow.
I'll just be cool with the kids I'm already, involved with. I'll just keep it there.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like my wife too. She worked with kids, and she raised. She was a nanny, and she practically raised 3 kids, and she was, she's had her, fill of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's just a lot of work.
And it's strange to me how it just wasn't in the cards for us to have it.
Yeah.
It's like, I never got the memo. Like, hey, you should probably think about having a kid when the female is like 35.
Right.
Because even
right.
after that, like the chances of like complications or like it being really hard to have a kid is so greatly increased. I had no idea that it worked like that. Like, I mean, it was like 38, 39.
Right.
I was like, when you're around 38, 39, then maybe think about having a kid.
Right, because then you feel like you're more established. You can like,
And then, but then you try and you're like, this is a lot harder than I thought it was.
Right,
like,
right. You're like, I thought I just put this in there and then there's a kid. Like, hello.
I mean, I think back to like when I was like 16 and like.
And it was drilled in your head like use protection.
Like,
you can sneeze and get her pregnant.
Totally.
Right.
I mean, every day I was like paranoid, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then now it's like later on you realize it's pretty hard to do.
Which is why I can't wait until I'm 35 and my chances of having a kid plummet.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Well, as they say in life, today you might think one way, but tomorrow.
This is true.
You never know. You meet somebody and you fall in love with somebody.
Actually, in all my dating profiles, it flat out says, no, I don't want kids.
Really flat out, blatantly.
So any man who is like, oh, we'll just fall in love and she'll probably change her mind. Nope, I'm gonna tell you from the get go, I don't want kids.
Just that's what it says on your Twitter. It's like don't want kids.
I don't want kids.
Flat out, just dark.
This is not to say I don't like kids. I do.
Yeah.
I just don't want to raise them again. I'm good.
Hey.
And for those of you who continue to do so, hats off to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think
it's a
beautiful thing. My wife's sister has this adorable kid, Oliver, and he's like, super, just like, you just want to bite him,
Cute.
And, it makes you think about it.
Right.
But
right.
I mean, there's some people, it's in the cards, it makes sense, and it just works,
Right,
other people, maybe it's just not meant to be, so.
And that's okay.
But we started talking about that one day, and then like every single time I see you, we just go off on these like really exciting tangents. We've been trying to get this podcast thing off the ground for a bit, and I think we have a plan in place.
We do. We've got a loose plan,
cool.
folks.
And it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. It's just something to do. Another artistic sort of
expression. You can get to know us if you don't know us enough already.
Yeah, but who really knows anybody? It's like
you don't.
You can be in a relationship with someone for 10 years and
you can realize they were a liar and had a double life the entire time.
At all.
Yeah. Yeah. I know someone who's going through that. I won't name them, but they were married for 11 years, and the people who worked with this woman were constantly like, dude, there's something not right about your husband. Like, he's shady. Like, there's something shady. And she was always like, she'd question him, and he'd always make sure, like, no, blah, blah, reassure her. And there's like he never had any money, yet he has a job where he makes $450,000 a year. So like, why doesn't he have any money? And like, she makes a lot of money too. But so then come to find out, after finally doing some more digging, 11 years, he pretty much has been spending his money on hookers, massage parlors, gambling it away, never paid his taxes, ever.
And she had no clue.
No clue.
How do you have no clue?
No.
How do you not know these things?
I don't know. I mean, they didn't have a joint bank account. I don't know, but
you hear about these relationships out there where these people have that thing where it's just like, the wife's doing this thing and she has no idea what's going on with the husband.
And he used to all these manipulative things where like he would mess with the door. Like, they had all these balcony doors, and he would open them after she locked them in order to scare her. So she would be like, oh, like, protect me, like, I need you, blah, 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 in order to get her to feel like she needed him more. He would do all these weird shit, and like, he didn't like some people in her life that were stronger presence, that were kind of like, dude, he's shady. And he stole money. He made it look like they stole money from her, but actually he took the money.
Wow.
And then we found out there was like cameras implanted in the house and microphones, so he could be watching her when he was it's crazy.
Are you serious?
So serious.
11 years.
11 years.
So now she knows and she's out?
But they have a kid together.
Of course.
So every time the kid goes with the dad, she freaks out. Because she's like, what is he telling her? I know he's telling her something.
Let's get her on the podcast.
She would not come on the
I want to hear this story. No, there's somebody with a story. If you have a story out there similar to this,
Please
we would
come on
love
and
to have you on the show.
share it with us.
You know, we want to. It's like Dateline,
It
dude.
is like
I mean,
Dateline.
that's like totally Dateline.
It
right
is,
there.
and then they could be like, "These are the signs you should look for." Is your spouse
Tell me
doing
when
these things?
Dateline comes on, do you not get? If you watch, I think there's a theory. If you watch Dateline for more than a minute, you cannot turn the show
Yeah,
off.
you're
It's like you're immediately sucked in.
I know, they're like, "What's living under your bathroom sink?" And you're like, "I don't know. What is living under my bathroom sink?"
I mean, and literally, you watch that show, and like literally, you'll go 58 minutes, and you have no idea what's going on until like the last 2 minutes.
And like, oh.
And they do it so well every time. It's really remarkable.
Oh, damn.
But it's funny how we just like we did this intro to
Right.
this episode, and it
Yeah.
was about porn.
Oh, yeah. Our original intro was porn,
and now
guys.
we're talking about kids and shit.
And
so we
Chrissy
can't-
messed
I feel like,
it up.
I feel like we can't pivot
We can't
back to
pivot
it,
back.
to the porn.
See,
thing.
I feel like I could pivot back to porn, but we can always save that for another day.
Chrissy just went right into it in the beginning of this whole thing. She was like, "Let's talk about porn." I was like,
Well, people have a lot of questions about porn, I feel like. Oh, do you know what we could do if you wanted? We couldn't say where she worked, though. My sister works at an adult store, an adult toy store. So she has a lot of stories about what happens at adult toy stores and things that she's seen and people she's had to kick out of the store and like, you know, and she knows the skinny on dildos and the like guys. She knows what's popular, what's not popular.
Wow.
Like,
Mom, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you have to hear this. But no. Yeah, let's get her signed up. Let's get her booked.
yeah, bring some demonstrations.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about
Samples?
the reality of like your life, folks. If you're driving in the car right now, listen to this, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna get there. We're gonna go there. You know,
We're going to go there. I mean, I'm certainly going to go there unless Brad's like, knock it off, stop going there.
I mean, that's what it's all about, man. Letting people in and just being vulnerable to like, you know, all this different stuff that goes on in this world. And I mean, you know, honestly, like, just, you know, to try to, you know, wrap this thing up about the porn thing, but you know, it's like I can't believe that somebody hasn't come out with like a documentary about this, like you know what it's really going
like
on,
in
you
the
know?
inside the porn industry.
Well, there's
Or like a
those.
day in the life of a porn star.
Those are out there. I'm talking about
Yeah.
like porn, America's obsession. No, porn, America's secret obsession. You know, like, do you know what I'm saying?
Are you
like,
on Dateline, Brad?
I don't know. Yeah, like a Dateline show about porn. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't
I
know. It's just
agree.
like I just feel like a lot of, you know, it's just like one of those things.
America's
It's like,
dirty little secret, pornography.
right. You know, and like how it's just become this huge thing for, you know, it's just been,
Well,
it's
in
been a huge thing
India,
for so long.
In areas where there have been free Wi-Fi, so many people were using it to look at porn, and the country really frowns upon that.
And where, India?
India, yeah.
I just got a very strange visual.
Yeah, and so
I
their public
I'm-
servers were being flooded with porn, and so the
Can't
government
think of anybody in India
right,
like
so
watching porn.
the government so the government started to crack down on it, and Google was like, you know what, we're gonna save the day. We're gonna restore your free internet in certain public areas. So if you want to watch your porn, that's what you can do.
Unreal. Welcome to What's Your Story, folks. This is the first episode. We're just going to get right into it, right out of the gates.
Jumping on in there.
But we're going to be talking about stuff like this and all kinds of weird shit.
Pretty much like whatever we think about,
Yeah.
you know, whatever's going on in our brain. Yeah.
You know, super unscripted. And we're going to have an interesting guest for you, and we're going to we're going to go there, and we you know, tweet us, you know, questions, tweet us things you want us to talk about. I don't know, you know, and we'll try to cover it. And it's birds chirping, you know, we're in our garage.
We are. And it's a super cute garage, guys. Brad also plays his guitar from this garage.
Mm-hmm.
Something called Garage Sessions.
Yes. Yeah.
By the time you hear this, you'll have to go to Brad's Facebook to watch Garage Sessions and look at past episodes. I think when this finally is going to air.
Yeah, the Garage Sessions is kind of like a live Facebook Live video thing. You know,
Yeah.
and kind of doing and
He's
just
like
having
gargoyles. He's got like what is that? A Buddhist thing? What is that?
just
He's
like
got like
you
a
know,
Buddhist thing.
Buddha thing, a vintage 70s
Phone,
phone. Like, you know, I don't know.
Lights.
Some of you guys have seen it.
It's eclectic.
Every Thursday night at 8 p.m. I usually do like 10 episodes, and I think we're going to do 10 episodes of this podcast too, but who knows? I mean, it's, well, you know, I don't know. You know, I'm trying to stick to a game plan here.
We're making a loose
But,
game plan.
Loose game plan.
And if you want more of us when the podcast isn't happening, you could always follow us on social media to see what we're up to too.
Exactly.
Like, what are you on social media, Brad? Tell everyone.
What am I on social media?
What's your
I don't
handle?
know. Like,
You don't know what your
Google
handle
me,
is?
Brad Bird.
Brad Bird with a Y, not an I.
My Twitter thing is, I think, Brad_Bird. Mm-hmm. All lowercase.
What's your Instagram? Brad
just
Bird?
Brad Bird.
See? Brad Bird with a
Lowercase.
Y.
And what's yours, Chrissy?
I am primarily Chrissy Carpenter everywhere.
Mm.
On Twitter, I am Chrissy SoCal.
Chrissy SoCal. You are so Cali. You are so Cali.
Like, for sure, Brad. Like, I'm totally Cali.
So what's going on with you right now? What's like you have so many things going on. Like what's coming up? What's like
Okay.
happening right now with you?
So here's what's happening right now. I have my show, guys, the Inside Noise Show, and it is every Thursday, and we broadcast out of the Grove, and we are carried on a streaming platform called Reverie, and we also Facebook live stream. I will be taking July and August off. That'll be the end of season 1, and I'm going to be using that time to get us onto more platforms. That's my goal during that time.
Wow.
To get onto more streaming platforms.
Getting
And I'm
onto
writing
more platforms, folks.
No, I got to take over the world. And I'm writing a mini series with a friend, so that's going well.
Awesome.
Awesome. And I do improv, and that's fun and exciting.
Are you doing the UCB circuit?
I'm at UCB. If you guys don't know what UCB is, it stands for Upright Citizens Brigade.
That's like the real deal.
That is the real deal, and it's starting to get hard. And you would think, how is improv hard? But the way UCB has you do it, there's all this shit working in the background of your brain that you got to be cognizant of, and it's very interesting and very tricky.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
I'd be scared to try it, but
I think you should try it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I'd...
Because you have an
know.
interest. You've had an interest in this for a while.
Yeah, it'd be fun to just throw myself into it and see where
Yeah,
where it
you
went,
should.
but-
You should just see. I mean, a lot of times actually at UCB are people who aren't even actors, and it's people who want to just grow in a different way. They want to challenge themselves. Maybe they're naturally introverted and they're trying to get more comfortable doing things that they wouldn't normally do. So you should try it, Brian.
Do you feel like it really does have some sort of correlation to acting?
Yeah.
Because a lot of acting is... I mean, a lot of it's scripted, though.
Yes, but you still, even in improv, you still have to relate to everyone in an honest manner.
Right.
You're not supposed to look for the comedy or try to play the comedy. You still have to react honestly. Like, okay, we did this exercise. I'm going to tell you quick before the show ends because we've been going for a good hour, folks. I know
Sure.
we're just about there.
We might have gone off over our time limit.
Well, you know, it's what we do.
And I'm sure Justin's waiting outside.
Justin, I know we gotta get Justin. So, quick exercise. We had to do this thing. So it was you and a scene partner. You just get up and someone gets up with you, and the instructor would give you the premise. Okay, so mine was, Chrissy, you just got back from the doctor, and you have cancer, and it's really serious, and you need to tell your spouse. So, and you're supposed to play it vulnerable, honest, as you would really respond and act. And so I was telling my spouse that I had cancer, and I actually had my grandmother passed away from cancer. So
I'm sorry to
there
hear
was,
that.
thank you. So there was a lot to draw on, and it's cathartic for me as well. So me and this individual were both sobbing at one point in the scene about cancer. Like, I'm talking about, I don't want to get treatment, and this is we're improvising it, but you just have the base idea. So then the teacher kind of ends the scene, and she says, okay, now you're going to do the scene again, but this time, Chrissy, she's like, I want the same intent, the same emotion, you know, everything is the same, except this time, Chrissy, you come back from the dentist, and you've just been told you have to get Invisalign for 6 months. Right, exactly. So it was so challenging but interesting to, as the actor, to still play it seriously with the stakes still being really high. But I'm talking about getting Invisalign, and the audience is dying laughing, but you have to block that out. You have to stay focused.
Right.
And I'm sobbing over getting Invisalign, and my partner's like, your teeth are fucking perfect. Don't listen to them. Your teeth are, and you're not
Right.
like trying to be funny. You're being for real, you know. And I'm getting upset about like, isn't there a gel? I think there's a gel, and everyone's dying laughing. But the point of the exercise was, even with comedy, you always bring your best acting to the table, and you really always still have to listen and respond and keep the stakes high, and you never try to play the comedy.
Well, you know, it's that whole thing about being present, you know,
Yes.
and it's like such a, a skill that you need to practice at. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
And being
yeah.
present, and like being, and acting is, from what I've seen, it's like a lot about really being in the moment and being present.
That's absolutely what it's about.
And I think that's a good thing. I think it's healthy.
Especially with cell phones these days.
Oh my God.
Do you have times where you say, like, no, I'm putting my phone away and I'm not going to get it out?
I'm really trying to do it. I really am. It's so hard.
At the gym,
really is.
I tried it, like, I put it on silent and I put it in my backpack.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not allowed to take it out of your backpack
Well, that's
unless
good.
you're changing songs. That's the only reason you're allowed
There
to
you
take it
go.
out.
What's your story? What's your story?
So we're back, guys. This time we've got our guest with us.
Yes, we have a very, very special guest today. Mr. Justin Levinson is in the house.
Yay!
What's up, guys?
Welcome to our technically second, but really first episode of What's Your Story?
It's a pleasure to be here.
Dude,
Thank you kindly.
absolutely.
So you are a musician, Justin.
Yep.
What do you play? Tell us your shindig.
Well, I play piano and guitar and I sing.
Those are all
And,
great things.
Yeah, and I kind of try to mix it up. When I play live, I do a little bit of both, keep it
Mm-hmm.
interesting. If you write on one instrument, sometimes at least I find that it just I kind of do the same tricks over again. So if I
Okay.
kind of write on two different instruments, it kind of it opens things up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
cool.
Do you perform with a band, or you're more of a solo singer-songwriter?
It's mostly solo for, financial purposes, but,
Yeah.
I'll tour or I'll play with a band if I'm like in my home state, or home city, like LA, I'll use a band here. But if I'm going to leave town, probably can't afford to be shelling
Right.
out the dough. It just doesn't make
To
any
bring
sense.
a bunch of people with you.
Yeah, maybe a tour manager just to kind of help with selling all
With
my
bookings
crap.
and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, who does it make sense for, unless you're like the Foo Fighters or somebody? you know,
Yeah,
or
got to sell a lot of tickets to pay for other players for sure.
pay for the band.
Right. I got you. And how'd you get started with music?
My dad is a teacher in Vermont, so
Okay.
he teaches like a whole bunch of kids, and pretty much like everyone that grows up in like our district of Vermont knows him or taken a lesson,
Right,
or their
been taught by your
brother.
dad.
It's pretty like one horse towny, so
Yeah.
it's like, So he taught me, and then I just kept going. Went to Berkeley for school, and
That's bomb.
yeah, just keep the train moving,
Yeah, and so
Berkeley.
how's the struggle been? Tell us the
I mean,
truth.
I wouldn't wish this on
Right.
this on anybody, honestly.
No, I agree.
It's a terrible career choice.
I
Horrible.
It's filled with lots of rejection,
Yeah.
and it's like, I think that's why I love baseball so much,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, even a great hitter, they're batting like 300, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's like a failing grade, you know what I mean? Like out of it, that's like 35%. Like you're failing most of the time,
Right.
or
Yeah.
whatever. My math wasn't good there. 30% if you're batting 300, but you know what I'm saying? Like you're getting a hit 3 times out of every 10 at bats.
Yeah.
That's like you're failing a lot, and music is sort of like that. Like you have to you have to deal with that constantly.
Right.
And still wake up, and even if one person tells you you're great, the next person's going to tell you you suck, and if you let it define you, you're just gonna you're gonna just be devoured.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's one thing that a lot of artists that are just breaking into the business or just starting off, they just have no idea like what it really is like, you know? And I remember starting off, I mean, if someone could have said to me like, dude, 15 years into this thing, you're still going to be dealing with like an insane amount of rejection, like all the time, And
Right.
it's just sort of like, wow, it's just like, I mean, you definitely second guess maybe even trying to pursue this sort of path, but
I agree.
yet at the same token, you kind of, it is what it is. That's what the gig is, and you love what you do, and you just start doing this thing, and it just takes over your life, and you just have no choice to do it anyways. But I mean, it is just ridiculous how much, what it takes.
It seems like it hurts less for me now, because the people that are successful I don't like, and I don't, you know what I mean? And it's like, and it just seems like, when I started out, I did it because I needed a lot of validation. I was like, boy, wouldn't it be great to be a rock star? But I guess especially like when I've crossed into my 30s, it's just like these, I've met a lot of them, and these people aren't happy people.
Right.
That, they're not, it's so, it's a bizarre thing to look at when you get in your adult mind, and I do it because I like it for myself more now, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, I just think it's a better attitude to have. The stardom thing seems pretty it's pretty.
Well, I
pretty
mean,
lame.
it all kind of starts off with wanting to make the art, but there's a big part of it that's like, you want to be known and you want to do
Right.
something, and it's like, of course there's the artistic part of it, but before the artistic part of it, there's got to be a little part of you that wants to get out there and kind of make a name for yourself. You know what I'm saying? And
Absolutely.
then once you get into it, then you're like, oh, this is what it's like to be an artist, and it's like you get to really feel the burn of that, which is an amazing feeling, but it's also pretty painful too.
Yeah.
I think your goals changed. At least mine did. I mean, you think like, I'm gonna be really famous, like I'm gonna do this and do that, and then as you get older, you're like, you know what? If I could just like pay all my bills and have a nice little cushion off of my love and passion, I'd be so happy. Like that'd be amazing.
But that's coincidentally, that's when the art gets good. I think,
yeah.
it's like when you finally go over this hurdle of like, it's not even about being famous. Who gives a shit?
Right.
You know what? Being an artist is like, that's great too, but you know what? And then all of a sudden you get to this place where you're like, you know what? I'm just kind of doing this for me, and that's when the work gets good, I think. You know what I'm saying? When you're able to let go of all this early phases. And for you, it's like you've put out like, what, how many records now?
Like 3.
That's
3
great.
records, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like you got to go, you can make a couple of records and get it out of your system a bit, and then you settle into it. And then, I don't know. I mean, would you say that this new record of yours is sort of like you've kind of like found your sound, or are you still looking for it? Or you kind
Definitely.
of
Like it sort of makes me want to like erase my entire career up until
Really?
now,
Interesting.
because it's like, I was always into like the Beatlesque power pop thing, and I made an album that kind of had a little like country feel to it for a while, and
cool.
I did it because, but I kind of did it for the wrong reasons, because I was sort of I had a critic that was just kind of like rip me a new one, was like, dude, you're Ben Folds like prototype, you know what I mean, like this dude has got and so it actually made me learn the guitar, because I was like, this is when I need to write on both instruments, but I sort of like did this like alt country thing that looking back, I did it for the wrong reasons, and I'm like, man, this doesn't even sound like me. Like, I don't know what I was doing, but I definitely was like taking somebody's critique and trying to morph my sound for that, and it just didn't work.
I mean, how do you not take it personally too when somebody lays into you or something like that? I mean, we're all so sensitive, and it's like,
and you start to think to yourself, and you're like, man, maybe I am just a Ben Folds prototype, and there's nothing original about what I'm doing, and
of course, and there's so many people that'll tell you, dude, just who cares about that guy? What he? But you're laying in bed at night thinking maybe he's right about this. And it's like, it's kind of sad. I mean, you talk about rejection, but then again, how about like, what would that be? Just like, it's not even rejection. It's like just straight up, fucking
Rude,
mental torture.
mean, yeah.
But it pushes you to maybe rethink a few things. But I mean, how do you not want to change and try and chase after something?
Totally.
Maybe you're super influenced by like a certain record, and you're like, dude, I want to go that direction with some of my songs. But I mean, you started off on piano, right?
Yep, started off doing piano when I was a kid, taking lessons and all that stuff. So I mean, that was my thing. Like the Beatle records I got from my dad and my mom. Went through chronological order from the that was the first stuff I listened to, Chuck Berry and Elvis and all that stuff. And I don't know, like I don't know. I feel like this record I made, it was really to thy own self be true kind of record, which was.
I mean, it's very, it's hard. I don't see too many artists pulling off like a Beach Boys thing or a Beatles thing. I think a lot of people talk about the Beatles. I mean, everybody talks about the Beach Boys and the Pet Sounds. It's like fucking this incredible record and blah, blah, blah. But not too many people, I don't hear people pulling that off, and I listen to your record and I'm like, dude, you're like pulling this off, which is like pretty impressive,
Thanks, man.
to kind of morph those two worlds together,
Tried to stick to a lot of that same vintage gear and the Mellotron and trying to, do our best, to stay, I don't know, just to just pay a good homage to it, opposed to like doing something that's just derivative and
Well,
crappy. It was my effort, at least.
But the thing is, I mean, you could have cut those songs in an all country fashion or an indie rock fashion, because the songs, you know, stand up. The songs are rock solid. The lyrics are good. It's solid. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know, as a songwriter myself, it's like I hear so much stuff out there that's like, you know, it sounds like they just put a mic in front of the artist and they're like, okay, dude, start singing, you know,
Yeah.
because they're just pulling shit out of their ass. It's like, it makes no sense whatsoever. Your lyrics, you know, tells a story. So I think even you could have gone any direction you wanted to, and I think it still would have held up because the songs are good. You
Sure.
know? But the fact that you were like, went for that particular type of sound for these songs, I mean, did you know that going in, or was it sort of like you started tracking the stuff and it just kind of went there and you just, I mean, is that, I mean, a sound that you've touched on before in other
Yeah,
records?
that was sort of what it was sort of sounding more like in the beginning when I started, like in 2005, and
Oh, okay.
I was just like kind of made a full circle back to it.
So you got
And,
like true to form, back to the
Yeah,
roots.
it was something like when I came here and like in the, you know, I hung out with the Beach Boys for that day, and like Stain invited me out there, a friend of
Right,
ours
yeah.
who plays in the Four Freshmen, and hung out in a bus with like, you know, Mike Love and Al Jardine and all these dudes, and I'm just like, this is just like insane that I'm like hanging out with these dudes in a bus. And I kind of
Right.
got on like a big like Pet Sounds you know, kick. And then, you know, living in California, there's all the sunshine and palm trees, and so I sort of took this like surfy, like Beach Boysy kind of infusion, and the songs kind of wrote themselves, you know.
That's
That's
kind of
so
awesome.
cool.
And how did you? I mean, you just said it so casually. Obviously, Brad knows the backstory. You're like, yeah, when I hung out with the Beach Boys that one day. So for those of us that are like, I didn't know he hung out with the damn Beach Boys. Like, how did that come about?
Well, now that I live in LA, I just like I name drop constantly
Right,
because it
right,
makes myself
right.
feel better.
Yeah.
I have a list actually I brought with me of all the
Please
famous
do.
people that I've spoken
Please
to,
do.
and
I know. I mean, that's what it's like living in LA to some degree. You know, it's like, yeah, I just hung out with the Beach Boys today.
Right.
You know, that happens. You know?
So how did that come about? How did you hang out with the Beach Boys?
well, Stain is sort of, you know, he's in the Four Freshmen, which were the big band that inspired the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson, and so you know, Four Freshmen seem, I mean, at least appears to me, I mean, he might tell you otherwise, but they're sort of like the minor leagues to the Beach Boys. So when, you know, guys go down in the Beach Boys, they call upon, you know, freshman guys like, we need a bass sub or blah, 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 or we need you to,
Okay.
and so one of the former Four Freshmen was a bass player now in the Beach Boys, or a guitar player or something. So he got us all in for tickets for free, and then, you know, got us in the bus and to hang out and for a while, and got to speak with these guys. It was pretty crazy. Like the drummer's wife is one of the Bengals. It was
Oh,
like,
that is crazy. Yeah.
Right.
it was just like a crazy. It's like a just, you know, it's interesting stuff. You know, talking to these people.
And that show was in Northridge, was it?
It was at the fair, yeah, maybe
Okay.
whatever the LA County Fair was.
Yeah.
I
Oh
think.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre.
Yeah.
It's like a,
I
it's
know,
like a
it's like, what a
ski
random-
lift that just like move a gondola, you know,
Yeah.
it goes around taking people. I'm like, God, where I'm from, like the Addison County Fair, where it's just like, you know, just a bunch of angry farm animals and
Right.
and like what do you call it? Like when you
What's the Roundup?
Or
Where
in
you
trucks.
pan against the wall.
yeah, or what's the one, or the where's the when cars just crash into each
Bumper
other?
cars.
No, it's
Just
the
kidding.
demolition derby.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the demo derby they call it where I'm from. You know,
The
watch
demo
all them
derby.
cars
So-
just explode. You know.
Yeah, the demo derby.
Last guy standing is the winner, you know?
So do you find that you miss Vermont when you're out here? You're kind of like good riddance.
I miss my family,
Yeah.
but honestly, like, in terms of an industry and the sort of, like, I don't know, these, like, a lot of small fries holding on to really, you know, small gigs that think they're really,
Yeah.
you know, doing something is
Right.
kind of sad. And
And then you come out here and you're like, whoa,
Yeah, you-
actually.
yeah, you feel like you've been like living in like a cave, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's like, and everything that you think mattered when you were playing there. I mean, I respect like the small town vibe and the community. That's something I do miss a little bit, where artists do sort of support each other and everyone knows each other, and it's great. But it's also like, you know, it's a like route to nowhere, because it's like you're playing for the same people in one circle. It's like one city of Burlington. And there's a lot of egos and people that think that they're doing something
Right.
at a level that they're really not.
they're not, yeah.
And when you come out to a place like LA, I think even more so than New York, you will go to like a show that's at on a Monday night in a club, and you'll see like a bunch of people doing showcases who are like have had like super fame at one time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they've won like a TV contest, or they do something, and it's like every one of these people has a following or something going on, even if I don't like it. I mean, I'm not a fan of like these TV things, but when you're in Vermont and you're like, you're living in a barn in Rutland, and you're playing in front of 20 people, you're not making it. You know what I mean?
No.
Like it's just it's bizarre, and the way the critics in the small town. It's just I don't know. I feel it's too incestuous. And when I came out here, it was just like the heavens had opened up.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing to experience. Like I lived out here for a while, and then I moved back to Massachusetts and experienced a small town thing too. And you can get wrapped up in that whole world, and there's certain people that are kind of like the gatekeepers, and they're not exactly super friendly to people that are coming from the outside, and it's just I don't know if it's healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like I just don't know. But then they're doing their thing there, and they're playing a lot, and it's like I don't know. Who's to say it's what's right or wrong?
Totally.
So what do you guys think? And even specifically for you, Justin, what makes someone get up and leave that comfort, or go and risk it and say they don't know what's going to happen, they don't know how they're going to be received, and then they go and they move across country to pursue their dream?
Well, I mean, I had started off where I couldn't even play in my town more than once in like every month or two. And I was touring constantly, and I was performing as a supporting artist for like, most nights 500 to 1,000 people. And then I would come to Vermont where I would play for less people.
Yeah.
And it wasn't validating, and there were the same people over and over again, friends and family, and it's like there was nothing was moving the needle at all.
Yeah.
So it got to a point where it's like I can't even play here. There's no industry there's nobody that's gonna find me here. No licensing company. No, different touring management. No one's, unless they're on vacation here.
Right.
There's nobody. There's no headquarters. You know what I mean? And
but then you hear about like the band from Iceland that's like getting their
I
shit.
fucking love Kaleo.
Right, like licensed up the wazoo. So it's like I mean, it's true. It's like serendipitously speaking, you're more likely to run into somebody who is going to come to a show in LA and be like, "Hey, man, I'd love to put your songs in some TV shows." I mean, I think there is something to be said about that. But I mean, you can, I've had, when I was living back in Massachusetts, I had a bunch of stuff licensed, and I wasn't in LA, so it's like, who knows, man? Like,
anything can happen with the web, but
it's true.
Just another point is like you don't get better at your craft unless there's other people that are way better than you that's surrounding you. And in LA, like I feel like it's a big head leveler. Like I'm not that I don't think I'm terrible, but there are a lot of people out there that are better. And in Vermont,
it is super humbling. Like when you can be the big fish in the small sea,
right?
And really think you're the shit and have a huge ego, and then you come here and it's just like, dude, there's like
100 of other
dudes
fish,
just as good as you, if not better, down the street. You know what I'm saying? With like a crazy studio set up in their house, so that it's mind blowing out here.
And if you're playing with the same people, like in the small areas, like sure, you have like 3 really good guitar players maybe that you could use in your band, but at some point in time, you're not going to grow because you've just been using those 3 guitar players or that same drummer or that same producer. It's like, in Vermont, there's like a small group of people and they're in like 10 different bands. It's like, and you're actually seeing the same band. It's like just one incarnation is a tribute band of the Grateful Dead, and the other one is a Prince tribute band, and the other one is like a neo soul band. The other one is like you know what I mean? And it's like, it's like you need to play with better people and bigger producers, and you have to have that to grow. Otherwise, you're just going to stay in the same spot,
Right.
I mean, not to beat this conversation to death about this, but it's like I think it takes a lot for someone to leave a small town and decide to move to LA. I mean, I think for all of us here, it is a big deal for anybody to, there's a lot of fear, I think, behind that. There's a lot of fear of the unknown. It's like, oh my God, it's going to be so hard. It's going to be expensive. How am I going to do this? But I think there's a big reward, though, for people that do decide to, I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to move to Nashville. I'm going to move to LA. I'm going to move to one of these industry towns and break out of that comfort zone.
Totally.
But there's a lot of things I miss about, small town stuff, and like, I don't know.
Is
just
there
like,
what do you miss?
I don't know. I just miss playing more. I feel like in this
Okay.
town, I feel like in industry towns, you don't play quite as much. You know, you play
Yeah.
a little bit here and there, and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's just the way I was looking at it. But, you know, I miss sort of like, you know, feeling like there is like an insular sort of fan base
Yeah.
that's more sort
Yeah.
of like in tune you. And then you move to LA, it's sort of like, you know, it's like you're tweeting things out into the universe and everyone's just on another planet. And
Right,
it's like,
right. And you're like, nobody
you know,
even knows I exist.
But when you're back in the small town of Massachusetts or in Vermont and you tweet something, like 75 people that are
Right.
friends with you, you know, all like chime in about it. But it's just like a different thing, and you lose
Yeah.
that. You lose that.
It's a
sort of,
false sense of security.
It's, you know, that thing. You know what I'm saying? You
Right.
lose that sort of insular blanket
Right.
of, you know, which appears to be this sort of like tribal following type of a
Right,
thing.
right.
But then you realize, shit, man, the business. You know what I'm saying? The people
Yeah.
that are in this business that are gonna, you know, really try to dial you into this very difficult, you know, industry to break into are all kind of here. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, well,
Yeah.
shit, man, I gotta.
You gotta fucking,
You
if
know.
you want to get to the next level, man, eventually you gotta move. You just have to.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, apparently, I don't know. But then again, there's bands from all over the place, man, that are doing their thing, and you just get in a van and tour forever. So it's hard to say where it's all going. I mean, when I left LA and moved back to Massachusetts in 2005, I thought the internet was the way. You know, MySpace
Right,
and all
right.
that shit. Like, that's the move. You know, you go out in the wilderness and, you know, you're going to build a fucking crazy tribal following, you know. But, you know, I did that for a little bit and it felt like the move. But, I mean, after a little while, like you said, Justin, it's like you feel like you hit that ceiling, you know, in the small town. And you're
Yeah.
like, you know what? Shit, man, I got to get back to, you know,
Right.
back to the big city, I guess, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, just the weather alone is enough. Even if you could never succeed,
Right.
I mean, who-
not
wait,
deal with
honestly-
another Vermont winter. People are like, "Oh, the snow." I'm like, "Well, yeah. I mean, hey, I'm
mean-
glad you love it, but
You're
I'm
like,
not putting
I like
on."
the snow if I went for a weekend and I drove there
Yeah.
and I saw it for 2 days and then I
Totally.
drove away from it.
I like going home and like for Christmas and you know, seeing it maybe
Like
for 2
magical,
days, and I am
right.
so ready to
You're
get
then
out
you're
of there.
done. Then
I
you're
mean,
done.
honestly, that was the main reason why I moved back to LA. It wasn't even about the industry. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't about all that shit. It was really about the weather on a basic level. I mean, I loved the weather when I first moved back. I loved the seasons. I was super into it. But after
Right.
7 winters, man, you know, after
You're like,
7, and I was like, and I was starting to like really.
you so depressed.
I was so obsessed with the numbers. I was like, dude, it's like 8 months of winter.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, my toes are fucking cold and numb. It's May 14th.
Yeah, my
You know what I'm
parents
saying?
just took their snow tires off their car. I'm like, are
Oh,
you kidding me?
damn. And it's
I'm
like 88 degrees here.
Yeah, it's insane.
I don't know if it's healthy, you know.
I mean, I was definitely way more depressed living in Vermont.
There's
Like,
yeah.
the lack of sunshine was just like, it would kill you, it'd kill your soul. And like, once you think, you know, you're out of it, you get that
Right.
April thunderstorm or that snowstorm,
Right,
and
you're
it's like
like,
3
You know
feet,
what,
and you're
though?
like, shoot me.
The thing is, though, for me, like as an artist too, like I felt like I fed off of that type of, you know, desolation and sadness and sort of like, you know, I don't know. I mean, I found myself, I wrote a lot more songs back there. You know,
Yeah.
here I'm just trying to get them like recorded. You know what I'm saying? But out there, I felt like I write more when I get out of town. You know, I
Yeah.
don't know if you feel like that at all, but I mean,
Yeah.
I write whenever whenever I'm friggin' have a guitar in my hand, but I don't know. Do you ever feel like that? Do you feel like, you know,
I write less, but I'm just
Yeah.
I'm a happier person now that I live here. Like, I had
Right.
some pretty I mean, we all do. I had some pretty dark times, especially when my last stint in Vermont, that like, you know, who knows, might have actually been just the kind of shit that was going on opposed to the weather, but
Right,
just
right,
the
right.
weather on top of it, you know,
Right, just
like,
a little enough to
yeah,
push you over
like
the edge.
it was pretty brutal there for a while.
Yeah.
When you say dark times, what do you mean?
Well, I had like right before, I had gotten divorced. That was pretty difficult.
Oh,
That's pretty dark.
damn.
And my mother got very ill. She's a brittle diabetic.
Yeah.
She like ended up in the hospital, and they thought she was going to die, and her heart wasn't so good. My great aunt in Florida passed away, and then my uncle passed away. It was like this, like,
A slew.
it was like the house of cards kind of went down.
Yeah.
And I ended up having to move in with my parents, like getting divorced, because I was
Right.
just, I didn't,
There you go, man.
I was paying for rent in a place I wasn't living in.
Right.
And I took one of my pets, and I literally was one of those dudes that was like, 30 years old living in their parents' basement.
Aw.
So I became that for a while, but I
Right.
wrote like some cool stuff, you know,
Right.
and around that time, and I think the
I
weather.
feel like that's just such a
You sustained and you
interesting
overcame.
experience, though, to you know, move in with at the parents' basement thing. I don't
It
know
was
what it is.
actually
Interesting or
really-
maddening?
It was actually really great, but what was funny was when
For
I
a
was
little
like,
while.
when I started
Right.
dating a little bit more,
Oh yeah, that'd be super
and like
weird.
girls were like, "Where do you live?" And I'm like, I was like, and I'd be like, "Well, you know, I'm just, you know, I'm staying in Virgins right now. Like, why don't I come and hang out at your place?"
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, you know, at that, you know, I was kind of seeing like a couple of people.
You're like, Mom, meatloaf.
And I was-
Mom, where's the meatloaf? What is she doing in there?
It was pretty funny, like, and then like, you know, confessing to girls that I was seeing, like, yeah, like I'm living here, but
And what did they say?
I feel like in general, like, you know, I you know, I was touring a lot, and like I was doing a job as a social worker, so I wasn't like some bum, you know. So
Okay,
in a way,
all
I think
right.
it kind of fed to the narrative of like sad guy. I kind of
Okay.
like him a little more.
Right,
So I
right.
think it, in some sick way, it actually benefited me.
Yeah.
But it also was just like, you know, the optics of it when
Right,
you're
right.
living with your parents at that age, just kind of like,
Yeah,
you know, it's and you've been married and you already feel like you failed in one
Right.
part of your life.
And
That
you know, it's true too. It's
you
like when the weather's bad too, it just makes all those things that were going on in your life just
Seem
seem
magnified.
Totally.
like holy shit, man, what am I dealing with? This is crazy. This is like, you know, everything's just heavier, you know?
yeah.
But that is a lot of heavy stuff to go through,
Totally.
you know?
and I hate to say it, I know you're on a time constraint today, right, Justin?
Yeah, I got a couple.
I want to honor
couple
that.
more minutes.
Okay, do you want
Yeah,
to talk
know.
about like your album that just came out, or plug your social media, or where can people find you and
Yeah,
follow you?
totally.
Well, I wanted to ask one song,
yeah.
one question
Yeah,
about
hit-
that time though. Did some of those songs that came out of that time frame, did they make the recent record?
Those actually were in like 2012 was sort of when that stuff was kind of going pretty south. And so that 2000 record that's called This Side of Me, This Side of You, which I did with a band it's like called Justin Levinson and the Valcours. Like that record is pretty much like the feel good heartbreak record.
Oh, I like
So
I love
that
I love
one's
that.
pretty.
The Valcours.
yeah, I like
that's
that.
cool
It's a
one,
strong
man.
word.
Yeah, it's like a little island off Lake Champlain that my drummer had thought of. So that was sort of the band that was rolling with me on that time. And so that's like my sad songs. That's like my sad white guy album.
Okay, all right.
If you,
Everyone deserves one of those.
yeah, you know, if you're on a Elliott Smith, like you know,
Okay.
Conor Oberst, you want to get a
Yeah.
good cry out. you know,
Yeah, I love
that's-
music like
that's-
that.
That's the sad album. But the newer stuff is definitely just like happier. And I think, you know, the Sunshine, all that stuff, you know, there aren't too many sad ones. You know, there's some things that are, I mean, it's not all love, but, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, people can find music on my website, it's justinlevinson.com. It's probably the easiest way, and all those Twitter, Spotify links and all that stuff is
Are
just
you
off
a
that.
big Twitter guy? I noticed you got like 15,000 followers
Yeah.
on Twitter.
Well, you know, in
pretty
that
good,
teeny
man.
bopper world, when I used to, you know, tour with all these, you know, like Aaron Carter kind of people, they're all Twitter, you know, because they're all younger. So
And your
I'd be-
Twitter handle is just your name if people want to
it's,
follow you?
it's at JX Levinson.
JX Levinson,
So
okay.
I remember that's when first time I felt old was when I went to those kids, and I was just like, all right, you guys got to find me on Facebook, MySpace. They're like, how old are you? And they're like, what's your Twitter handle? And I'm like, oh, it's at JX Levinson. And then I knew, okay, this is the only way I can interact with
Right,
fans,
with
and
fans,
it's kind
yeah.
of stayed that way from that point on.
Well, you've opened for a bunch of big artists too, right? I mean, you've had some interesting touring opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I've toured with, like Aaron Carter, Tyler Hilton, Ryan Cabrera, Teddy Geiger,
Oh, yeah.
Howie Day. I've toured with John Waite,
Howie.
who was an older dude from the Babies. He was in Ringo Starr's band, and
I love John Waite stuff.
I ain't missing you.
I'm
Yeah.
missing you.
So I've kind of a interesting array of artists, and then there's, you know, all the people that, you know, I'm sure you as well, where you've had those one-off dates where you're like, this is the weirdest. I just opened up for like the Verve Pipe. This is bizarre.
That is
or
so
like,
cool.
Or the Spin Doctors, or like some of
Yeah.
these weird bands that I've had these one shows with, and I've been like,
Spin
man, like,
Doctors.
yeah, I remember opening up for Chris Barron. I was like, dude, I'm like, you were on the cover of the Rolling Stone, and now we're
know,
playing
I'm
in like a coffee house in like Phoenixville, Pennsylvania.
So
That is
random.
amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
So yeah, I mean, it's crazy world, you know.
That is
Yeah, that's
amazing.
fabulous though. I love that.
What's your new record's called? Yes Man.
The Yes Man. Yeah.
And
Yes, man.
Yes Man.
I like
Oh,
that.
yes, man. Okay.
Sort of like
Got the Art Nouveau sort of 60s psychedelic a la zombies kind of style cover.
And there's links
I
for
love
that on your social media?
Yeah.
People want to find it?
Yeah, just Google Justin Levinson. Yes, Man. It's his new record that I think is super cool. Where did this title come from?
Basically, I didn't want to steal the Jim Carrey movie's idea because there was a Yes Man movie by Jim Carrey. But Yes Man was just sort of like it's a character in one of the songs, and it was just sort of who I would have became if I had not sort of like found a voice and was able to make some real big moves, getting out of a bad marriage. And the character in the song is a guy who is stuck in a bad marriage and it's not exactly my situation.
Right.
It's just a different character, but basically he gets up in the morning and his boss yells at him, and he puts on his tie and he goes to this commute, and his boss yells, and he comes home and his wife yells at him, and gives him crap and makes she's a big spectacle at restaurants. And and he comes home and sort of like has all these kids, and he just looks at a TV, and he just like, he's just sort of like stares into outer space, and it's just like, how many yeses got me into this mess? And I sort of like stole like a Dr. Seuss sort of rhyme scheme and he wonders how many yeses yesed him in this mess. It's sort of
like that.
And and I just kind of saw like a dude that's just like worn out and working and sort of just like consumed by all these decisions he never really had a voice in. And I saw myself as literally that was what I was headed for. And it was sort of like I called an audible, in the end of the game and sort of and got out of it. But, I feel like that's who I would have become, was this song called Yes Man that's on that record.
I love it, man. I love to know that.
So if you guys want to hear that yourself, you should check out Justin's new album.
So what else is going on now? So you got a tour coming up too in the fall.
Yeah, I'm going to Europe for a month touring with this thing called Songs and Whispers. So I'm doing all these different venues. Yeah. Me and my friend Adam Popick might be coming along. He may not. We're kind of crunching the numbers and seeing if we can do it as a duo. But I'm definitely.
It'd be nice to go with somebody, right? I
mean, one of my best friends lives in Berlin, so I have a contact out there. But I've actually, embarrassingly enough, have never really left U.S. or Canada. So.
Or you take your lady with you.
Mein Deutsch ist nicht gut. Yeah. I've gotta get gotta brush up on my Deutsch.
Don't we all?
That sounds super fun, man.
I know my German curse words, but besides
what else do you need to know besides
German curse words? Yeah, I was gonna say Scheist a lot.
There you go. It's perfect.
It's like only the hardest language to learn.
Yeah.
But
well, cool, man. Well, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
guys.
Thank
you for coming out.
Dude, you're the perfect first
it.
Guest for our show.
What's your
here.
Story?
Yeah,
and we got the story. I feel like we got the.
You got some dirt.
I like the story.
I could keep talking,
great.
dude. I could keep talking to this guy for
hours.
Know. But yeah, man. Thanks
for having me, guys.
Appreciate it. Okay, guys. Well, that was Justin, and he was amazing. Mm-hmm. I thought he was great. Lots of good stuff going on. Everybody, make sure to check out his record. Check out his album. Go follow our Twitter, which is We Have the Story. And we have to start tweeting. We're going to start tweeting. We just haven't gotten there yet. But we have to say bye now.
You guys driving in your cars somewhere could, this is really pointless and irrelevant. But we're so blatantly vulnerable and honest on this podcast. That
Which is amazing.
We just tell you everything that's really going on. The truth. You will get the truth here. You will get the truth about everything.
Yes.
Tune into the store.
So thanks for listening to What's Your Story?
Yes.
I'm Chrissy.
And I'm Brad.
And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.
What's your story? What's your story? What's your story? What's your story?
Brad, what is your story?
What's your story? What's your story?